Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the kitchen. And I forgot to close the pantry door. Hold on one second. You can just go over there with me. We are here today, and we're going to be making a couple of my favorite dishes. One is a Caprese salad. Yeah, we can't be showing that. The other, of course, is pasta e fagioli. Pasta fagioli, otherwise known in most Italian homes as pasta fazool. It is a very traditional dish. It is... You know, the funny thing about this, I'm going to make it the way my grandmother made it. And I'll tell you something. Hi, Mar. Good to see you. My grandmother made this dish as really a use for leftover spaghetti sauce. So if we had pasta one night and there was leftover sauce, we were going to have pasta fazool probably for the next day for lunch or the next evening for dinner. Mr. Herwig, how about a nice Valpolicella? Although Chianti is always good. Mr. Richard Herwig, of course, they're going to be coming over and enjoying the pasta fazool a little bit later on. So pasta e fagioli simply means pasta and beans, and there are as many different ways to make this dish as there are Italian and lovers of Italian food out there. So it is just simply one of those things that you make it the way your family made it. And tonight I'm also going to do a little variation on Caprese salad. Caprese salad's the easiest thing in the world. You slice some tomatoes, you get that fresh buffalo mozzarella, you slice that up, garnish with a little fresh basil, a little olive oil. A lot of people like to put, and I do too, a little balsamic, but that is not traditional. Traditionally in Italy, if you order a Caprese salad, you will not get the olive oil with it. Hey, Sean LaBelle, with the single that's dropping on the 14th of September called Supermoon. Sean LaBelle is an amazing jazz artist. And he's got a brand new album coming out. And everybody who's anybody in Motown has worked on this record with him. It's unbelievable. And I'm looking forward to having Sean and I in the desert to talk about Supermoon. But Sean, it's nice to see you. And I can't wait to hear your new album. No, Richard, not Moon River. Although Sean will sing that. All right, back to Caprese. I'm going to do a little variation. And don't worry, Richard, I've got regular Caprese for you. But what I'm going to do tonight, we're going to roast some fresh garden tomatoes, not my garden, somebody's garden. And of course, a lot of the folks that tune in often do so from back in Virginia, and you guys are probably getting your tomatoes. No doubt by now you better be getting those tomatoes. This is a great way to use garden fresh tomatoes. It's just a little different. What I'm going to do is roast them with a little olive oil, a little garlic, and a little oregano. So normally you would use basil for Caprese. I'm going to use the oregano on the roasted tomatoes. And then I'm going to pair it with something that's absolutely fantastic. I've been looking and looking and looking. Hi, Andrew. Nice to see you. And I finally found I'm going to pan the camera over here. I'm going to show you what I've got. And I'm going to tell you where you can get it. All right. That may look like just your traditional ball of mozzarella. Okay. It is not. This is smoked mozzarella. And it's wonderful. It's got just a little thin rind. It's a little firmer. And it is, of course, smoky and delicious, but it's beautiful. And I just found it at the Ralph's at Smoke Tree about a week ago, maybe two. And I've been looking and looking. You can find smoked mozzarella. You'll get that applewood smoked stuff that's the really firm mozzarella, and it's been smoked, and it's kind of a hard cheese. This is still that nice, soft mozzarella, but it's been smoked. It's lost a good bit of its moisture content, so it's not like the fresh mozzarella that still, comes in the container with the water. This is a little bit drier product, but it's still a nice soft cheese. But the smoke flavor to go with our roasted tomatoes is going to be fantastic. And it's a great way to kind of vary up the recipe. I serve Caprese salad frequently because I love it. When I was a kid, we didn't have fresh mozzarella growing up in Charlottesville, Virginia. It was unheard of. And so the only time we'd get it is when my uncle would drive down from New Jersey, and he would have stocked up that morning at a place called Celentano's. He'd bring down prosciutto, he'd bring down gabagool, he'd bring down hard salami, all of that good stuff. But he would bring down a cooler full of fresh mozzarella and smoked mozzarella. And I fell in love with the flavor. And so what we're going to do, I've got my oven heated up to 400. I'm going to dress the tomatoes, and we're going to start to roast those. So we'll just do, and this is so easy if I find where I put my stuff. All right, here's a little, I just chopped all this garlic. It's about 4 cloves of garlic, which is more than I normally like to use. And I've got some lovely, this is organically grown extra virgin olive oil, Mediterranean blend, which probably means it's not entirely Italian. I suspect there is other olive oils involved. I can see Estonia and a couple of, but it's a Mediterranean blend. So we're going to drizzle this. All right, you can see that, right? So we're just going to drizzle, and I sprayed the pan with a little olive oil spray. We're just going to drizzle this right on top of the tomatoes like that. And there we go, and there we go. It doesn't have to be a lot, but you're going to want them to kind of crisp up a little bit on the top. All right, and then we're going to take our chopped garlic, just a little bit on each tomato, just a little bit for that lovely fresh flavor, like that. I didn't do a great job of chopping that, but that's all right. So we're going to put that on each of these. And what I've done is I took some fresh tomatoes and I just simply took the top and bottom off so that they would stay level and cut them in half. So this is a half of a tomato each. That's all you need to do for this. All right, so I got my garlic. Some have more, some have less. Let me rinse off my fingers here. All right, we got a little garlic on those tomatoes. Now, just a little dry oregano. You can get fresh oregano, that's fine. I'm just going to sprinkle a little oregano on top like that, and like that, and like that, and that's it. We've garnished them with olive oil. Yeah, Guinness does want to help. Hi, Jennifer Hunt. Hi, Jan. Guinness always, and Ryan both, they're back here. They're always wandering around. So what we're going to do, now we got that ready to go. This just goes into the oven for about 12, 15. You just got to keep an eye on it. I'd say anywhere between 12 and 15 minutes. Hello, Mary. Good to see you. So we've got the oven up to 400 degrees, and I've got it on convection roast, so it kind of roasts them evenly. Now, the other thing I'm putting in the oven right now, you guys have seen this before. That is some beautiful prosciutto, right? I am going to crisp up the prosciutto. So I'm going to throw it in the oven while we're cooking the tomatoes and while we're getting ready to do the pasta fagioli. Because now the recipe I'm going to give you tonight for pasta fagioli is completely vegetarian from top to bottom, except I'm going to garnish mine with some crumbled prosciutto because it's delicious that way. If you don't want to, and if you want a vegetarian dish, tonight I got one for you. But let me watch out, boys. There we go. So that's going to crisp up. And of course, it's the evening hours, and we always have to have a cocktail. This evening, I'm just having a little vodka tonic. So I hope that when it's 110 degrees, I have a real hard time pouring Jack Daniels before it gets dark outside. After dark, yes, but when it's this hot, I got to start with something a little bit lighter. But salute, Chindan, thanks for joining me. Mr. Millard, my former band director, is watching from Charlottesville, Virginia. I was telling him, I still break out the trumpet every once in a while, but mainly just to annoy the dachshunds. They don't care for it. Cheers. All right, let's talk about pasta fagioli. I'm going to turn the attention over to our stove. And now, this is, as I said, it's a great traditional dish. And one of the things I'm going to do, just like my grandmother did, I'm going to make it from leftover spaghetti sauce. Now, you don't have to do that. I'll give you the recipe so that if you don't have spaghetti sauce laying around, you can make it from scratch and no problem. But all right, what I've done is I've got my onions. There's already onion sauteed in my spaghetti sauce, but I've sauteed about another quarter to a half of an onion, a small onion, and I've sauteed that in a little olive oil. I'm going to turn up the heat. What I've got here, and there's a great place to do this. You can get the onion, the celery, and the carrots right from Trader Joe's. They have a great mirepoix. But I spent all morning in between newscasts slicing up celery and carrots. Now, I've sauteed my onion, I've sweat those out just a little bit, and now I'm going to add in the other vegetables. This is just simply celery and carrot that's been chopped up. I've turned up the heat a little bit. What I want to do is just get this going to help, particularly with the carrot, to soften it up a little bit, because you don't want it. I like my vegetables, even in my pasta fagioli, I like them a little al dente. I want them to have a little snap, a little crunch, but I don't want the carrots hard. I want, it to taste like it cooked well. So I've got a whole bunch of carrots, celery, and onion in here. And we're going to let that saute for just a little bit in the olive oil. I'm using that same organic olive oil. Typically, I get my olive oil from Costco because they have that wonderful Toscana version, which is a all Italian, and it's really terrific. I'm gonna bring you over here so you guys can see what I'm doing. Oops, sorry about that. You just got bumped into the cabinet. One day when we have a budget for this, we're gonna have a cameraman and everything. Let's come down here. All right, there you go. We've got, does that help? That does help. Okay, you can see the colors. I've got my celery, onions, and carrots going. And I'm just going to saute those in a little olive oil and let them soften up. And I've got it under a pretty good heat to do that. You don't want to burn the onions. Normally, if you're making this from scratch, what you're going to do is also put in some garlic right now. But because I am using my leftover spaghetti sauce, there's garlic in here. So I don't need to add any additional garlic. So that's how we're going to work on that. My water for the pasta is already boiling. All right, you've seen that. Let's talk a little bit more about this pasta fagioli recipe. One of the things, and a good friend of mine, Sandy, I know is watching, and when you put the pasta in, pasta fagioli means pasta and beans. Of course, you're going to use cannellini beans, okay? Cannellini beans are simply white kidney beans. You can get them pretty much anywhere. You guys probably use them all the time. I picked these up at Trader Joe's. That's a good spot to do it. I'm going to put a couple of cans. I'm going to rinse them before I put them into the soup. Hey, Paul Sisson, good to see you. So I've got a good sizzle going on here with my celery and carrots and onion, and I'm just going to keep stirring that around again. I want to soften that up. I peeled and chopped all of that a little bit earlier this morning. When I did the celery, I just took my veggie peeler and took off the outer skin so you don't get as much of the string on the celery. I got my pasta water boiling. Normally you use ditalini, which is it's not an elbow, it's just a little short tube, small short tube for pasta. I couldn't find it anywhere today. I checked a couple of different stores. It's sacrilege, Sandy, I know if you're watching, but I'm going to use a cavatelli. This is a mini pasta. I want you to take a closer look at it. I know it's backwards and you can't read it, but it's a nice, small little pasta. It is a traditional, this is imported from Italy, and you can see it came from Whole Foods. This is just a real nice, tiny little, almost shell-shaped pasta, which is going to go great. But we're not going to worry about that until after the soup is just about ready to serve. I've got a little splash of some wine that we're going to put in there in just a little bit. Just a little leftover Cabernet. I'm going to put my cannellini beans in, and also you can make this with chicken stock. I'm going to use about a cup and a half of my leftover spaghetti sauce. So you can use a can of the tomato sauce that you get from the store. Use your own. Of course, in the sauce, it's just going to be garlic, onions, Italian seasoning, and the tomatoes. I'm going to put about a cup and a half of that in the vegetables in just a little bit. And then I'm going to add another cup and a half of vegetable broth. You can also, of course, use chicken broth. And a lot of the time I do, but I'm making this, as I said, it's a vegetarian recipe from start to finish until I put on that prosciutto. All right, so the celery is softening up. The carrots, I know, will eventually, and it smells so good. Just that mirepoix with the olive oil. Now I got to put a little salt and pepper in there. Oh, and I forgot, I got to put that on the tomatoes too. I forgot the salt and pepper the tomatoes. I'll pull them out and do that. While I'm thinking, oh, these look good, and my prosciutto is already crisp. I'll take the prosciutto out. That is super hot. And the tomatoes are coming along really nicely. But again, I forgot a little salt and pepper. Now, I'm pairing those tomatoes up with the smoked mozzarella. I'm going to do that a little bit later on. I'm going to let them continue to roast. However, if you just want to serve the roasted tomatoes as a little side dish or a starter, what I would do is sprinkle a little Parmigiano Reggiano on top of them, along with the garlic and the oregano. And then you're going to have a beautiful side dish. And then you put the Parmesan on top of that, and it's fantastic. All right, this is up to temperature. So we've got a nice saute going on. Let's get a closer look at it. I think you can see what I'm getting at there. All right, now I have this beautiful tomato sauce. Spaghetti sauce. It's just from the other night. I'm going to give it a little stir. There is already some garlic and onion in here. And like I said, I want to put maybe a cup and a half. You can put a little bit more if you like a thicker soup. I like it more of a soup consistency. So what you want to do, and I do it usually in about a 3-to-1 ratio. So if I put 1 cup of tomatoes, I'm going to put 3 cups of broth, or even you can use water. That's fine. My mom used to use water all the time because her spaghetti sauce was so good. You didn't need to add anything else with flavor. So I put the tomatoes in there. We're going to stir that in. All right. That's beginning to look like pasta fazool. Once we get the beans in there, it really will. Now, as I said, I did about a cup, maybe a cup and a half of the tomatoes. That was really, really good spaghetti sauce that I just made from scratch here at the house the other night. I think I did that Tuesday. Pardon me. That was the pepper. I'll wash my hands. All right. I always have to have about a full roll of paper towels when I do this cooking. Let me give you some light. All right. A little more light on the subject. Now, I've got this, which is just vegetable broth. Again, you can use chicken broth if you like. That's fine. I'm going to go with about a cup of that. Maybe a little bit more. So I've got a cup of the broth. And I'm going to put another cup in. Remember, I said I like about a 3-to-1 ratio with my tomatoes to whatever liquid I'm using. So there's 2 cups of vegetable broth and it's starting to look like soup. That is beginning to look real good. But I'm going to add just a little bit more liquid, just a little water, because this is going to cook down for a while, and I don't want it that real thick stew-like consistency, because remember, we're going to add beans to this, and we're going to add a little pasta to this, and so it's going to be a whole different kind of thing. All right, I've got my spaghetti sauce with my vegetable broth and my carrots and celery and onion. And basically, the base of your pasta fagioli is done. That's really good to go. So I'm going to turn the heat back up. We're going to bring that back up to a boil. And, let me check on the tomatoes while you guys are right here. Let me point this back. I suspect our tomatoes, watch out, Guinness, are just about done. Now I'm going to let them go another little bit longer. When you roast these, you're going to get rid of some of the liquid in the tomato, obviously. They're going to be a little firmer and just a little crispy on top, which will be really nice. My water is boiling for the pasta. The one thing you want to do when you're going to throw the pasta into your pasta fagioli, don't cook it all the way until it's done. You want it very al dente because it's going to continue to absorb the liquid in the soup. More pasta or beans in my soup, asks Stephen. And the truth is, I like kind of a 50-50 ratio. I like a lot of the I really love these cannellini beans. They're some of my favorite. And so if I'm guilty of anything, hello, Bill Senso, how are you? If I'm guilty of anything, it's going to be that I put too many beans. But I'm only going to use 2 cans. And what I'm going to do right now, since I've got the other vegetables coming up to temperature, and remember, you want particularly the carrots have to get nice and soft. And I'm not going to serve this for a little while, but I want you to go through the process with me. But I'm going to rinse the beans, if I can find my proper tool. There we go. I'm going to let you guys continue to watch the soup. Actually, we can come back over this way. Like I said, one day when we get a real budget for this, we're going to have a camera person and everything. Hello, Mary Franz. How are you? Went to high school with Mary. Didn't you guys just celebrate an anniversary, or was it your birthday? It was something. I saw it. I love Facebook because it reminds me about all my friends back east, and I get to keep up. All right, so I'm just going to rinse that's 1 can of beans. I'm going to put those right in because you also, of course, want those beans to open up and cook through. My mom said that the soup is never ready until the beans have split open a little bit, and I always trusted her judgment on this one. This is one of my father's favorite dishes. The funny thing I was telling you, so my grandmother made it from leftover spaghetti sauce, and that's what I'm doing tonight for you guys. My grandmother would never, a 30th anniversary, happy anniversary, Mary. My grandmother would never serve this to guests. It was not company food, and the reason she gave was, she said, pasta fagioli it's peasant food. And of course, you know, my grandparents were Italian peasants. They came over on the boat, and she considered it just a way to use leftover spaghetti sauce, so it wasn't, dinner for company. I completely disagree because it's so delicious and so good, especially when you make it with your own beautiful spaghetti sauce as I did. Now, I've got 2 cans of beans in there. And my mother would always top this with fresh escarole. She would just put a few leaves of it on top and let that kind of, and escarole is sort of kale-like, and I don't love it, so I don't do that. And also, by the way, even at Whole Foods, I could not find the escarole. Let me show you what's going on in the pasta fagioli so you can see the dish. It's looking really good. We're going to bring that up. I want to get it just to a nice, low rolling simmer. So I've got my beans. You can see the beans, the carrots, the onion, and of course the celery. It all looks good. And this is just going to need to cook down for a little while. So again, it's about a 3-to-1 ratio. The spaghetti sauce or tomato sauce, however you want to do that, 1 cup. And then you want to use 3 cups of other liquid to that. And that way you're going to get a nice consistency. It's not going to be too thick. It's not going to be too thin. And then when we add the pasta, remember the pasta is going to absorb a lot of the liquid. So quite honestly, we might even need to add a little bit more liquid to it. Just as it begins to cook, because I want to check the consistency as I go along. Now, my mother was a pro at this, and she never had to check. It would just always came out right the first time. I'm going to check on our tomatoes. Oh, yes. They're not quite finished, but they're getting there, and I want to show you these. As long as I don't burn myself, everything will be fine. All right. I want you to take a look at those tomatoes. They're roasting on top. They're getting just a little brown around the edges. The garlic has been roasted nicely on top. So we're going to let those continue. They've been in there about, I think, 15 minutes. You can go 15, 20, 12 to 15, depending on, I'm using 3 tomatoes cut in half, so it's 6 halves of tomato in there. And that's going to be a really nice change of pace from the caprese because we're going to use this beautiful smoked mozzarella. I'm going to bring you back over and take a look at this. Smoked mozzarella, again, it just has a little bit of a smoky rind, not much. This was not really deeply smoked, but it's a little firmer. It doesn't have the liquid, doesn't have the moisture of regular mozzarella. And when those tomatoes are just about done, and what you would want to do is do this just before you serve them. You can roast them ahead of time, and then when you want to serve them, put a slice of cheese on them, pop them back in the oven, and let that melt down. Because that's what I'm going to do. Let's see. Bristol Farms. Jensen might carry escarole. You're right. You can probably find escarole. That was Andrew Trofka who was telling me that he was shopping around. Escarole is hard to find, but it's a great topping. You can also use kale, but I don't like either one of them. So anyway, I've turned up the heat. We're going to bring the soup up to a nice rolling simmer. Let's not say boil. I'm going to go ahead and start the cavatelli. And I know that the Italian purist in the group would want ditalini for this. And ditalini is also a little hard to find. You're going to find elbows, you're going to find, but any small pasta, here, I'll show you how small this is. I'll get a couple of these out. All right, any small pasta, there you go, you can see that. A rolling simmer, yes, not quite a boil, but you see what I'm getting at. All right, so we're going to put the pasta in. And I'm going to let that do its thing until it's still pretty al dente. My father said it's still got some bones in it, is what he used to say. Watch out, Guinness. Once we get the soup up to temperature, and it is now, I want you to take a look at it. It's simmering around the edges. Yeah, oh, that's nice. I put the pasta in literally just before I serve it. And what I'm going to do with this soup tonight is I'm going to, now this is an entirely vegetarian dish in here. There's even the spaghetti sauce that I made, that doesn't have anything other than vegetable ingredients as well. Olive oil, onions, garlic, tomatoes, and Italian seasonings. I didn't put any beef stock, beef broth, bones, nothing like that. I just made, it was a light, almost marinara-like sauce that I made for some spaghetti on Tuesday, and I figured this is a great way to use that. Now I'm going to add in a little red wine. That'll give you a little more liquid. It'll intensify the flavor of the soup for you. I put some red wine in my spaghetti sauce, but it always needs a little bit more. And of course, it's going to deepen the color and give you that rich texture. And if you see that coming along nicely, then you just want to cook it down until the beans and your veggies are nice and soft, and then it's ready to go. You throw in the pasta and let that cook for just a couple of minutes in the soup. And I think our tomatoes are done. So let's pull them out and take a look at those. Oh yeah, they're beautiful. Those are beautifully roasted tomatoes. And Melissa Niederman, does it matter what type of bread? Not really. I mean, I was using a cab, but usually a Chianti is some nice Italian bread. Now this pan is really hot. I'm going to save a couple of those. I'm going to get them out of there because they're ready to come out. But then I'm going to show you how I'm going to serve the tomatoes. So hold on a second. Uh-oh. That is not the right tool to do it. Hold on. Remember, I cut the bottoms off these, so you want to be careful taking them out. I cut the bottoms off so that they wouldn't roll around on my pan. But then when you take them out, you got to be careful not to have the entire center of the tomato come out. Now I want you to take a look at those roasted tomatoes. They are absolutely beautiful and perfect. I'm going to hold those for just a little bit. I'm going to serve these. These are Hanover. They should be Hanover tomatoes. But now let me show you exactly how I'm going to serve. These are going to save for later until the guests get here for dinner. So I've got a couple of slices of that smoked mozzarella. Put that right on top. And let that go to work for just a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, our soup is more than a rolling simmer. It is a gentle boil. I'm going to cut it back down a little bit. This is essentially ready to go. It just has to cook a little bit longer. Hello, Joan. How are you? Good to see you. So once again, the ratio is about a cup and a half of tomatoes, and then 3 cups of your liquid of choice. Broth, chicken or vegetable, or even water will work. And you put that right in with your onions, your celery, and your carrots, okay? And for those of you who need exact measurements, it has 4 carrots. They weren't real big. 4 carrots and about 5 stalks of celery, just the celery hearts. And dice them up, put them in here. I saute that in a little olive oil with the onion, then I add the tomatoes. And of course that already had a little garlic in it. If you're making this from scratch, saute your onions, add your garlic, then add the tomatoes, and you can use any canned tomato puree or sauce that you like. It's a nice way to go. And then, like I said, 3 cups of other liquid of your choice. And again, tonight I was using this, which is just a nice organic vegetable broth. Hello, David Wall, good to see you. And once you get your vegetables and your beans in and let them simmer for a while, let them get nice and soft, just before you serve it, I'm going to drain this pasta because that's about ready to go. Let's see if I got, where's my colander? Ah, there it is. You don't want to overcook the pasta because, again, once you put it into the soup, it is most certainly going to absorb a lot of that liquid as well. So, turn the heat off. And I know it wasn't that long. We didn't cook the pasta that long because it really is going to absorb a lot of the moisture and liquid from the soup. And I'll let that go actually another minute or two. But you don't want it to be so soft because then it'll just fall apart in the pasta fagioli, and you don't want that. You want it to all stay nice and firm and hold its shape. So anyway, let's check on the tomatoes. We got another minute or two. And once those are done, I'll show you those, and that'll be the end of tonight's presentation. But I hope that you guys are doing well. I hope you've had a great week. I was just looking out my window here. It got a little humid. We've got an excessive heat warning that will go into effect tomorrow through Monday. And it might even last longer than Monday because the temperatures, for those of you who are not here in the Coachella Valley with me, the temperature today was about 114, 115. Yesterday was 113. And over the weekend, it's going to be 118 degrees. So how about that? You guys on the East Coast, you have to deal with freezing rain and sleet and snow. We don't have to worry about that. But we do get some awfully hot days. And today it is increasingly humid because of the remnants of Hurricane Alita, which are rolling up the coast and bringing in some cloud cover. So it's been a little bit of a different kind of desert day. That's a good plan. Someone was just saying, I got to check and see who was just saying that to me. Oh, Andrew says he's going to make his in advance. And it's always, pasta fagioli is always better the next day. But this is going to be pretty good tonight, I'm pretty sure. We'll take another look at that. And it's simmering along beautifully. I just want all of those veggies to be nice and soft, just a little al dente. Let's pull the tomatoes. I think they're ready to take a look at. Oh, yes. Now, this is what I'm going to serve as my first course. There's some roasted tomatoes. That is a roasted tomato with a beautiful slice of smoked mozzarella cheese on it. That is gorgeous and ready to go. Turn that off. Let's pull those and I'll show you. What did I do with the tool? Hello, Christopher Flicker. How are you? Mr. Flicker is our chief photographer at KESQ, News Channel 3. All right, that and that. Oh, look at that. Okay, guys. So this is my version. It's a little bit of a different version of caprese. That's a roasted tomato with olive oil, garlic, oregano, salt, and pepper. Now, I use oregano, not basil, and with my fresh caprese, of course, basil, but this I change up a little bit. And then I topped it with some smoked mozzarella and just let that melt over the top. And that is my first course, and then I'm going to serve the soup after that. Let's check out the pasta fagioli. Get a closer look. Oh yeah, that's about where you want it to be. And I'm going to let that do that for a little while. Now we can pull the pasta because I'm certain that it's of an appropriate doneness. Uh-oh. And just in time, the company's arrived. Let me ditch that. So I got my cavatelli, and that's ready to go. I'm just going to leave it right here in the strainer until I'm ready to serve the pasta. And that wraps it up. Thank you guys for watching. I'll post the recipe, and I'll also post a picture of the finished product for you. But pasta fagioli is real easy, and if you got some leftover spaghetti sauce, it's a great way to use it up. And again, go ahead and serve it to your guest. Ignore my grandmother's advice. She said it was peasant food, and that's just fine. I can be an Italian peasant, enjoy some pasta fagioli for dinner. Pasta fagioli, pasta e fagioli, pasta fazool, any way you say it, it's delicious. Cheers to you guys. Thank you very much. I got to go get the door before the dogs eat them alive. Have a great evening.